I record. Okay. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Here we are, Wednesday morning, August. Me and Katie are here to talk to you about how to understand your children's behavior, how to understand what you're seeing them react to. So I want to make sure, like, I'm going to put it in the comments below. If you missed last week where we talked about emotional well-being, not just for your kids, but for yourself and modeling behavior, I'm going to put a link in the comments so that you can go out and watch that one. And so let's get started. So Katie, I'm going to let you take it away. What should we know about our children's behavior?
Okay, well, just a brief introduction for people that didn't see last week. My name is Katie Price. That's what I go by, Catherine Price. I am the owner of Padma Counseling and Consciousness and the main lead therapist, which provides mental health and substance use services virtually for the entire state of North Carolina. So I'm happy to be here and share a couple of neuroscience tips today for parents, just the science behind a couple of things.
Okay, so for people who don't understand neuroscience or know what neuroscience is,
yes,
let's talk a little bit about that. I always viewed the brain as like another muscle, even though one of my students said, Master Huff, that's not a muscle, but it is a muscle to me because it controls so much about who we think we are and what we think we can accomplish. So, and then my son played sports, so I always told him that's the first muscle you work. And if you don't have your grades, you can't do anything else with all the other muscles. So let's talk about that a little bit more, and just to give some broad understanding of that and how it's important.
Yeah, so I like the analogy of the brain being a muscle, because a lot of people, and I don't know where this misconception came from, but somehow we just believe that the brain just stops developing. It's like old dogs can't learn new tricks type of thing. Like once we reach, adulthood, that somehow our brains just kind of stay stagnant. But that's not true, especially in most recent years. We have evidence to back that up with principle of what we call neuroplasticity, which has got a lot of traction as of recently. But it's just the concept that our brain can continue to expand, particularly when we come into contact with different type of stimuli. So particularly stimuli meaning different situations we're placed in. So, and it kind of works off a principle of mirror neurons. So mirror neurons,
that's new for me. Mirror neurons.
So just like what it sounds, the mirror neurons help you to be able to model behaviors that you see in front of you, whether that's you're watching that on YouTube or you are watching that being played out in front of you. And this can apply to not only emotions, but actions. So, those mirror neurons are firing off when everybody's watching you as Master Huff in your studio, in your academy. Those mirror neurons are firing off, and that's how the brain is growing and shaping.
So talk about, I'm trying to remember, it's not coming to me right at this moment, about like neural pathways and creating new neural pathways. I think Tony Robbins talks about this like as a broken record, right? You got to interrupt your pattern and you got to create new patterns so that it's completely possible to create new patterns by interrupting yourself in the moment of one, when you catch yourself doing that thing, and then creating that new habit. And I can't remember, but I remember reading, I don't know if it was Joe Dispenza or someone that I follow on Mindvalley, but they talked about like the smallest thing, like if you're right-handed and right is your dominant hand, brushing your teeth with your left hand can create some new neural pathways and create some new connections. So let's talk about, because I think sometimes when we talk about new behaviors and new pathways, everybody thinks they have to be like super huge monumental things, and they really, really don't. It's the law of consistency and compounding impacts everything that we do. So if we can just kind of give some examples of the small things that can be implemented that can make long-term changes, I think that would be super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, so going back a little bit to the science of things, when we talk about the brain being neuroplastic, it's just meaning that it's able to be more flexible with things. So when you are learning a new skill, you are developing and pruning essentially, so cutting off different kind of connections to form that essential groove in your mind, that pathway that's reinforced by doing the same behavior over and over and over again. Just like your students at your complex, they have to practice that skill over and over and over and over again until that sticks in their mind and their body of how to do that particular skill. So I think when it comes to habit, what's happening there is, I think I like what you said about not like having expectations so large of being, okay, I'm just going to be this like master of all these different skills overnight. Because it is about just small, substantial like changes for yourself.
I really brought that up because last night in class, I was asking my students, like between like now and the next time we train, what should they be doing? Like I asked them, how much better should I expect to see it? And they're like, way better. And I said, no, just a little bit better. Just pick one thing and make it just a little bit better, because in their minds, like to practice, it had to have significant improvement in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where, when we're dealing with kids and the behavior, like their expectations or like what they think you're expecting to see is so huge. And so they either won't try or they put so much pressure on themselves that it shows up in a lot of different ways. And so that's really why I want to make sure we talk about that tomorrow, because that little change can make a big difference when you're consistent, right?
Yes.
It's consistent action that they're not doing or we're not doing it. And we're not doing. Like we all have a thing that we know that we need to consistently do and that we don't. So, okay. Yeah. And I like,
yes, I think just a small habit in mind. I think I like to think of it as like keeping promises to yourself.
yes.
Just because I think a lot of the times we, try to set these huge expectations when really like what's best and what is going to be sustainable is something very, very small. And for example, I like the work that Dr. Nicole LaPera does in just talking about like creating a tiny small habit for yourself. Like she gave an example of one client she worked with, just drinking a glass of water, like just getting up and that being the first thing that you do in the morning. Like we all can drink water, whether it's like through a straw or whatever kind of adaptation that you need, like that's something that we can all do every single day. But to keep that promise to yourself, and then you can begin to make other changes. Okay, if I can drink water every day, or then I can add something else to that.
I think the book Atomic Habits does a really great job of giving you a framework for how to incorporate that to create new things and new ways. He talked about how to associate it with something you already do every day. Like, so I know I have a friend who's got this great product called a NutraSwish. And so I bought the great product, but the great product doesn't help if I don't take it, right? And then it wasn't in my habit to take it. So I sit it right next to my coffee pot. So as I'm waiting for my coffee, I just do my swish and then I just take it. So now doing that, I've been able to consistently do it. and get the results of, better sleep and feeling better in my body because of just doing it while I'm waiting for my coffee. So things like that. But Atomic Habits is a great book to help you get started on associating those things and creating those things. And I like how you said the little promises, because the first people we disappoint is ourselves. Right. Like as moms, we notoriously do it, that if anything has to give, it's going to be what we want or what we need or what we wanted to get accomplished to do for the family. So that I like that, keeping a promise to yourself. I feel an idea coming along, Katie, with like a promise bracelet, a promise tree. I don't know. Something's going to be going in there. All right. So now let's talk about it in relationship to your kids and expectations on what they can understand and what they can feasibly do when it comes to their emotions and their behavior. Because like you said, we think like once you get to this point, you stop growing, but the growth is a process. And with everything that we have, and I'm gonna use my grandson Nikolai, he's 8 and he has grown up in a completely different world than I have and you have because of technology and streaming and iPads, and so we assume because they act as if they know more and are grown, we assume that they are. So can we talk about that a little bit in relation to age groups?
Definitely. So we'll dig into the neuroscience a little bit more of things, especially when it comes to development. I think you're so right. Like there's definitely this delicate balance of, okay, this is a small human and I need to treat them as such. However, there are certain behaviors and things that we do need to tailor to the child because they are not quite to that adult level of maturity, right? Emotionally, physically. So particularly for children under the age of 7, most of them are still developing those kind of neural connections, like we talked about the neural pathways, and they're making really just connections here and there. It's kind of sporadic, right? So because it takes them a little bit longer because of the stage of development to be able to make those things. So logical thinking in terms of being able to think out and make a little bit more rational decisions, not totally and completely, but that doesn't happen until after age 7. So when we think about that and put it into context, we might have all these expectations for our 5-year-old to get dressed every day and make your lunch before you go to school, but that might not be feasible for them at the developmental age to do.
So let's just sticking with that age group, then how do we know? How do we know? And as parents, how can we test the waters? A, to see, okay, this is where they are, or B, to help them create those neural pathways, or maybe to help them along in their development. What are some ways that we can do those two things? So know where they are and then develop it.
Yes. So definitely, I would say letting the child kind of lead first too. So maybe prompting things, right? You can start asking them a couple of things, or if they're starting to show signs of independence, right? Like we talked about in the our first talk together, we are huge models for children. That works on the mirror neuron principle of being able to pick up those behaviors that we see. So if they see you unloading the dishwasher and putting dishes in there, like over time, they see that consistent behavior from you. They're probably going to start asking if they can help, or maybe you ask, hey, would you like to help mommy load the dishwasher, and see kind of where they are in terms of being able to start responsibilities.
So with my grandsons, my older grandson likes to cook, and then my younger grandson, I always told him, you can't, he's like, I want to do this or I want to do that. And I said, you can't do that till you're 5. Right now, your job is this. You get to, so if we were cooking something, he would get to stir it, or he would get to like dump in the ingredients, or so like I found giving them assigned tasks that they're responsible for gave them not only just ownership of the process, but made them feel a part of the process as well. And knowing that they had, when I'm five, I get to do this, and making things that we typically make have tos into get tos at a younger age helps with the languaging of the things that aren't necessarily desirable, you know, no one wants to do the dishes. Nobody wants to put dishes in the dishwasher. Nobody wants to
Right.
get dishes out of the dishwasher. Nobody wants to clean the bathrooms, and nobody wants to like sweep them up the floors. But if we make it part of our process or team, I found that that's been very helpful for like me with my grandkids, but not, and then also with my students. Even with my students, asking them to help me by behaving this way is also very effective. And I give them the context, like, if we do this, if we all do this together, then we can all do this together. That makes sense to them, right? It gives them that immediate result, you know. And of course, now moms and dads, I have like stuff they can hit and punch and jump on, and they can be really loud. So that is an extra benefit. But it works the same way with, like I said, with my grandsons at home too.
Right.
So now when we cook, they're helping. You know, I'm not doing all the cooking, and it's something that we get to do together, and it's fun. So
Right. Some really good points that you brought up there.
So what about between 7? What is like middle school age? So like 7 to like that preteen. What about that?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, between 7 to kind of teenagers, a little bit more connections are forming. I wanted to go back a little bit to prior to age 7, you're
Mhm.
gonna have, so all those neural connections are forming, right? It's if the absence of that logical thinking isn't as present, that means you're going to have more of the emotional thinking. So
Okay.
that's leading more to tantrums are going to be more frequent, what we call big feelings, right?
Mhm.
All of these huge emotional expressions, anger, crying, all of these things are going to be more prevalent and present in the mind as we're trying to form these things, which makes that modeling, I think, even more like appropriate, especially when we're talking about how to regulate yourself. So
Okay, so I want to talk. I want to talk about giving the parents tools on how to deal with those big emotional outbursts.
yes.
Because that is what used to like make me go 0 to 60. Like, we're in our day, we're in our moment, we're trying to do our thing. And then like this big emotional moment, we don't have time for that big emotional moment. We just need you to get in the car. So like what can the parents do to handle those better?
Right. So I think it starts with prior to the meltdowns, prior to all those, when you're in moments of calm and just like having a good time, is starting to model some of those things for them. So, okay, what can we do? Like I'm thinking of little activities that I typically teach some parents, like blowing out the candles. Okay, when you are angry, like let's do that, which would be like our fingers. That could be a big example. So, okay, that's modeling taking deep breaths, which helps to bring down the body, the nervous system, which gets activated when we have a big emotional response. So that helps to bring that down.
So if they say, no, I don't want to blow out the candles, then what do you do?
Then we might suggest kind of just like waiting there with them. And if you don't have time, okay, like that's fine. You're allowed to feel that way. You might have to pick them up, or you might have to move them into the car. But I think acknowledging is a big step there. Just saying, okay, that's okay. You're allowed to feel however you want to feel. I'm not going to try to change that. But when you're ready to talk about it, then we can go there.
So it was so funny at our BNI luncheon yesterday. We actually were talking about that a little bit, and I don't know how it came up, but someone was talking about that they were the kind of aunt that their nieces and nephews didn't cry around, because she was always like, "Why are you crying? I don't even know why
Mhm.
you're crying. Da, da, da. And so everyone started sharing like the things that the parents did for them when they were having those moments, right?
Mm.
And I think the funniest one was Libby's. And Libby, I hope I get this right. It was her mom would take a towel, like a dish towel or something, and throw it on her head and say, "Okay, there's the whiny towel. Use
Mm.
it until you're done. Throw it in the wash, and then come talk to me."
Mhm.
So like you're like
Interesting.
giving like a physical object to maybe. I mean, I have the sniveling chair. I had a sniveling chair where like as adults we get emotional. Like we don't like to talk about it. We talked about this last week, but the sniveling chair was my physical way of giving myself time to feel that feeling, right? That's a Wayne Dyer,
Mm.
um, Katie Byron thing, like really feeling the emotion and understanding why you're feeling it in that moment. So like I thought that was so funny with the whiny towel. I like the candle thing, but then maybe
Mhm.
we as parents can find something that does work that we can put with us and say,
Mhm.
okay, I understand that you're feeling that, but we have to go to the store. Here's your whiny towel. We'll talk about it. Like feel that feeling and let's go. Is that something that you think would work?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, or if they have an object like that, they have a teddy bear or something like that, they kind of their comfort object. Okay, like
Okay.
here's this. Because I think that can also add an extra level of comfort to them,
So
right?
you're,
And then
you're saying you're saying maybe not the whiny towel. We all love the whiny towel. That's hilarious. Okay, but you're thinking maybe something nicer, okay, but not technology. I think
Mm,
that's where we make the mistake. We make the mistake of like letting them have the phone and letting them watch Facebook and but not technology, because technology doesn't necessarily allow them to still feel the feeling. It's like the beginning of teaching them to push them down or push them away.
right.
So, okay, so something of comfort. I like the whiny towel. Like I like the whiny towel. Like if I had kids right now and I knew that, I would go ahead and get a towel embroidered the whiny towel.
Oh
Like I
gosh.
would do that. I would totally do that. And then that way they'd be like, "Oh God, Mom's brought out the whiny towel, or Mimi's brought out the whiny towel." I totally would do that. But like we said last week, you choose your style of parenting, but
Right.
but make it something not technological.
Yes,
Okay.
because I think a big thing that most parents, especially when we ourselves are overstimulated, which happens frequently as
Mhm.
parents, like our first tendency is to want to fix it, just to stop the emotion, stop the crying, stop whatever's going on.
Yeah.
But by doing that, yes, you're right. It does teach them, like, okay, like I have to kind of push down some of my feelings rather than my parents are a safe space for me to be able to just express whatever I'm coming to them with.
Mhm.
So I definitely agree with that sentiment.
So what if the behavior turns to little violent? Like what if they start throwing things or breaking things or hitting? I've
Mhm.
had a few parents come to me with that, like hitting. And in what are the differences in what you could do in those instances?
Mm. Yeah, it's definitely want to acknowledge how difficult that can be. But that also is part of the process, especially if we said kids under 7,
Hmm.
or children that have experienced other kind of like emotional incidences or maybe haven't been taught emotional regulation. That translates to when they become older past the age of 7. Not that those pathways can't be changed, neuroplasticity, right?
Hmm.
But it might take a little bit more effort as opposed to children under that age of 7. But what we can do with the hitting behaviors, so if they are younger, we can kind of separate them, right? From if they're a sibling, another child, we can separate. Okay,
But what if
it
it's
is.
the parent? Like I've had a lot of parents, like their kids are, and this is still the under 5 group. We're not talking
Yeah.
about above that, like that are spitting and hitting the parent.
Mhm.
So what about in that instance?
Right. I think definitely separating yourself
Yeah,
from them. Like I
for a
I
lot of reasons, parents. I know. I'm feeling you on this. I know.
all right. I mean, I have even told parents sometimes, like, you might have to just lock yourself in your room and like let the child kind of be there. But again, which is very tough, is very tough to go through and have to experience that. But some also children, depends on like specific what they need. They might actually just need you to physically hold them, you
Mhm.
know. It depends on their sensory levels as well to the actual like physical pressure and
So if
touch.
it escalates to like a place where like setting them aside and like you giving them their space in their crib or their
Mhm.
whatever, and it doesn't, then probably just seek some other help just to see if there's
Yes,
something else going on. Okay.
right.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
I think a lot of times it's just what you said, separating and then being very clear on like what they can and cannot do.
Mhm.
Right, because I found that that's the most success I have when parents bring their kids to me. I just say, we don't do that.
Yeah.
We don't do that. That doing that isn't the option. You can do this or you can do this. You
Mhm.
cannot do that. So like laying out that
Right.
line and letting them know what is acceptable when they're having that moment, I found has been very helpful. And then holding that line and like
Yes.
always making that behavior not acceptable. Always.
Right. So what we call boundaries.
Mhm.
Setting boundaries is good parenting. Some people call it discipline, they call it boundaries, or whatever, but it's okay, like reinforcing that every single time. Like if they're more prone when they have big feelings to hit their sibling, okay, like every single time. No, that's not acceptable to do. I understand. One, validating the feeling. I understand you're having X, Y, and Z feelings right now, anger, sadness, silliness, maybe.
Mhm.
But it is not okay to hit. And then separating, moving the item of choice being thrown or whatever, separating that. And then again, the other piece of that on the back end is modeling when in calm instances. So that becomes a reinforced behavior over and over and over for them to eventually click in their head that that's what they need to do when they get upset.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say, and parents, I hope I'm translating this correctly for you, is that if you want to have a meltdown, you can't let your kids see it. That's what I heard you say, Katie. Is that what you're saying? Like if
No,
you
no,
don't
no.
think you can go somewhere else. That's kind of what I heard because meltdowns happen, right? I
Yeah.
mean, they just do. It's, it's stressful being a parent. It's stressful being a parent who works. It's stressful being a parent who works and maintaining everything that we maintain. But
Right.
that's what I heard you say. Just so you know, I'm just kind of giving that. Have your meltdown where they can't see you.
No, you absolutely, that is not what I'm saying. You absolutely can have a meltdown and you should actually. Part of modeling is not just modeling like,
Mhm,
regulated behavior or calm behavior.
mhm.
It is also modeling the difficult times. So
Yeah.
when you do get frustrated waiting on the phone for 45 minutes for your prescription, like is to model some of that behavior. Okay, when the phone
Mhm.
call ends, okay, and maybe they're in the room with you. Like, okay, mommy is really frustrated right now, but like, modeling, kind of talking that out. Okay, I'm gonna
Oops,
take a
you
couple
froze,
deep
Katie.
breaths.
Is that me? Oops, Katie froze. So, oh, I don't know where she is. All right, well, I'm going to keep going with that. I think I'm back. We had a moment there. Let me see. Um, so we were talking about modeling the behavior, and that your kids are always watching and always listening to what you're doing. So just always be aware of that. Always be aware of that again. All right. Let's see if I can get Katie back. Because what's a day without, again, we were talking about moving from. We've got a lot going on. So I'm going to wait for Katie to hop back in, and then just talk about the next, go on to talk about the next age group. So if you didn't know this and you didn't set those foundations with your kids when they were the toddlers and they were that age, and now you have to rebuild some of those pathways, it isn't too late to start. It isn't too late to start with that, because we can always grow and we can always develop and we can always learn. So it's just the picking your battles, right? So now when they're above 7 and you're in that 7 to preteen age, it's about picking your battles and saying, okay, what is the behavior that is the most important to change, right? Because some of it they've adopted as who they are as a person. Like, this is who I am. I don't do this. I hear this all the time. I'm not this person. I can't do that. I'm not like that. This is who I am. And so then it becomes choosing the battle that you want to fight, choosing how that's going to look for you. Sorry about that, Katie. Apparently we were talking about frustrating, and the universe wanted to show us how to handle it, I guess. I guess that's what it was. So I was, in your absence, I was talking about how, like, now that if you didn't know those things and you didn't know how to do that, and now you have that age group that's between 7 and that preteen, and now that you didn't model that behavior, I was talking in terms of now you have to pick your battles. Right now, you can't change everything at once, because they've adopted some of that as their identity. So for that age group, how do you recommend picking the battles, or choosing which battles you're going to dig in on, and choosing the ones that you can kind of have some flexibility on?
Well, definitely. I think if it becomes an issue, definitely seeking out some professional help, just for the both of you to have extra support, because it can be extremely hard, especially if you feel like, you're the only one that's experiencing difficulties.
You're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. Right. You're not alone. Right. Definitely.
Absolutely. I think it's very child dependent. So I think just navigating around those things, and kind of implementing the same principles that you might use younger, just age appropriate. So validating emotional experience, and then also boundaries for that, which, what we call discipline, but boundaries in terms of what is and is not acceptable, and then what comes from holding those boundaries. Okay, not punishing for like having an emotional experience, but you might follow through with what your expectations are with them. Okay, so like we said, we need to keep up our grades in order to continue to go to your classes at the Confidence Complex, and if not, this is what follows.
Well, the good thing about bringing them to me is I believe in double teaming. So when I say you're not alone, I mean, you're not alone. Like, you say, this is what happens, and now we're telling Master Huff, and now this is what happens. Like, that's one of the ways that we provide support for our students, is so that they don't always have to be the bad guy. I can be the bad guy, and I can be the boogeyman. And then again, I have things that we can make them do. Punch. We've got things that we do. The other thing that we have is leverage that the parents don't have of their belts. They want to progress to that next level, but we can tie that progression to their behavior. And we have on occasion demoted students based on their behavior, and given them an action plan to earn that belt back prior to the next testing, so that they can go to the next level. So if you're in my sphere, I'm a double teamer. We make a parent sandwich, right? Like, we make a parent sandwich, because I didn't always have that. I didn't have that leverage when I was raising my boys. And so I always like to be that support. And so if you have a, a way to get some leverage, right? Especially when we're talking about 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11, 12-year-olds. The difference between my boys is my older son, I always had leverage because he wanted to play sports. So if he wanted to continue with sports, then these are the things he had to do. He totally got it, made it happen. My younger son didn't really care. He was like, okay, I don't care, whatever. I had no leverage until he met his future wife, Kayla. And then Kayla was the leverage. She was like, if she didn't like it, he didn't do it. And so, but that's kind of one way that we assist our parents and students. And I'm sure there are other organizations that do the same thing. We're going to be bringing them on when it comes to tools, introducing you guys to some other organizations that can provide that support, that are right here in this community, that are here to help support you with the development of your kids and all of the great things that we do that you may not have understood. So that's in future episodes. But I just want to be clear, in the confidence complex, oh, no. No, we double team you. We teach you like the theory of that soon. But I just want to make sure they don't take it, Johnny. Like, no, dig in with that. But but there are, like, if you like, say you're new to the community, let's talk about that a little bit. Say that you're new to the community because we are, Fort Liberty, which still sounds weird to say. How do they tap into those organizations? Like, what is the fastest way to find organizations that can support them? Because that's been a struggle that parents have shared with me. Like, once they found our complex, like, wow, I wish we would have found you when we first got here, because we've been here for a year and a half and didn't know that you were here. So is there a main resource? I know that I talked with the Partnership for Children. There's some county resources that they have. Now, the Partnership for Children is for under 5. They have a resource book available on their website that you can access, and the program's there. But do you know of any that once they come to our community, that they can tap into?
Oh gosh. Particularly if you're military, I mean, I would think your MFLAG would be the greatest good resource there. Just that's at least in my experience, would probably have a greater breadth of knowledge than I do in that area.
Just don't think. So the biggest thing is, don't think that you're alone. And sometimes you have to ask a lot of questions to dig in and find them. I would just definitely recommend do that there's so much, and it doesn't always have to cost money, that we have such a great community. Like, we have such a great community, because a lot of us, I've been in this community for almost 20 years now, and we're here to support the families that are here. And so, whether you're military or not, we understand supporting families. So I'd like to leave it on that note. Now let's talk about as much as people dread the terrible twos, I think teenagers are the next thing that they dread the most. So you get them, and then they go from being the sweet, lovable, what can I do to help, to the stinky teenager face. So what's going on in their brains?
Yeah. So with teenagers, we're looking at, so they are mostly influenced by social connections together. And what's happening in the brain there is, a lot of those emotions are still, this is kind of the fine tuning phase in a lot of areas of the emotional connections, but also the logical connections. So what's happening is, it's kind of, those huge connections are happening in the prefrontal cortex, which is this area of the brain, your forehead, which is responsible for logical thinking and processing, but it's the last part of the brain to connect. So, which is why we see a lot more impulsivity and kind of quote unquote rebellious behaviors that happen during that time frame, because it's kind of the last part of the brain to connect things happening.
Is there any commonality in, like, what triggers that rebellion?
They say, yeah, sorry. They say mostly it's influenced by social aspects. So peers, are a huge influence status there, as well as parents. I mean, don't discount yourself in that aspect too. I think it kind of goes back to building that foundation when you're younger. However, if this is you now seeing it as a parent of teenagers currently, it's never too late to start the repair process.
I think the other dimension is that we're not the way the family structures are. So sometimes when like I have a stepson, and so we would only get Marcus, maybe
Yeah.
summer, we'd only get him a few times. So like when he came into our house, it was just very different from what he was accustomed to. So how can you help bridge that gap? Because you have your standards and you have the way that your household runs, and they're coming, maybe it's a stepdaughter or maybe it's a stepson, or even if you're like, I know a lot of the parents foster, how
Yeah.
can you bridge that from what they're used to what you expect, so you have less raging battles?
Good question. I think um, you're going to have battles probably regardless, just because we're
Make
human.
them less intense or less frequent, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like life. It's going to happen, but if you can
Right.
minimize it or minimize the emotions around it, because that involves everybody.
Yeah.
Then it puts the parent of the child in a different place with their spouse, and then you've got the kids who are with like there's just a lot of layers in there that have to be navigated. And I think that's the case for a lot of families, the majority of families days.
Right. I think communication is so big, like clarifying your communication there. I'm sure most people have heard of the term co-parenting, but if you haven't, it's just basically finding like compromises between parent parties, right? Biological parents, step parents, like finding whatever the households your children are divided between, um, finding ways to compromise and come together with agreements. Okay, in each of our households, these are some standards across the board that we're going to hold for each other. Um, and just keeping that consistent, because in every
Yeah, I mean, I'm just being the devil's advocate here, because I know that that's
yeah.
great. But
Right.
from like my personal experience with Marcus's mom, that was never the case.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
like if I said it, it would be like, absolutely not. You're like, so we have some adversarial things going on that's not going to be, that would be like the ideal, like the utopia.
Right. In the ideal world.
In the perfect world, we would just agree on what we would do, we wouldn't do. But
Yes.
that doesn't, so if that doesn't happen, then it is adversarial. Then
Right.
then again, we're just talking about mitigating damage at this point, and how to mitigate damage and then still build a relationship.
Yes. I think, in that case, in the non-ideal world, which is what we mostly live in, right? I think um, the consistency is
Okay.
key with that. So continue to hold your boundaries,
Okay.
even if you don't agree with, let's say stepmother's household is a little more lax, they don't have as many rules or other thing or structure, right? Kids actually need structure and boundaries, right? What we talked about. But let's say in that household there is none. So I think consistency on the part of your part as the parent would be continuing to hold those and not feeling guilty, like, oh my gosh, well, they don't have rules over there, maybe I shouldn't have any. Like, they actually will do much better if you continue to have rules. And that might be where some of the problem is that there is a lack of rules and they're not used to that. So that might be where some of the outbursts and things like that come from, is because they're not used to that.
Well,
So you're
yeah, and I will say, like, to give all the parents that are going through that right now some hope, right? So now my boys are grown, right? They're including Marcus. Marcus is one of my boys, and they're in their 30s now, but doing that and holding firm and making him always knowing where I stood, not just where I stood, but why I stood there. Like, I always tell him why I had that boundary. So I didn't just say, these are the rules. I'd say, this is the rule because.
Mhm.
This is why it's important, and this is why it's not negotiable. And he didn't always have to agree with me. We didn't agree a lot, but
Yeah.
now, like, on the other end of that, Marcus calls me on my birthday. Like, we,
Mhm.
we we built a relationship because of it. And so that's the hope I want you to hold on to. So to look into the future and say, this is what I want with them. And to do that, that's going to be hard, and you're going to feel
Yes.
ugly and mean. You're going to feel like you have the warts for the evil stepmother. I mean, it's,
Right.
it's totally going to feel that way. But
Mhm.
that's what I found, like giving them the boundary and the context for the boundary. And then
Yes.
even like it's describing to them what you want to see for them. Like, this is what I want for you in this house.
Mhm.
So kind of letting them know that you're thinking about them as part of that structure. I found to be helpful
Right.
with him. So let
Yes.
him know that, I considered him part of our house, even when he
Mhm.
wasn't, you know.
Yes.
So that's what I found that worked really well. And that, just, own the warts, own it, do it. Right. Don't be mad. Don't be upset about it. And then, there's so many women and families that are going through that, in the world that we live in. We talked about technology as a negative thing a
Mhm.
minute ago, but technology can be, there are the groups out there where women are meeting and gathering that are going exactly through that thing in this moment that you can tap into. So do that, you know,
Right.
go do.
Definitely all very good points. And so true. I think to add to that, I would just add another piece of the emotional validation. So not only holding true to your boundaries, including them in there with you as part of the family, the explanation why, but also like allowing them to be able to relate, especially in the teenage, like listening, genuinely listening, like even if it sounds so like just out of left field, like how they're feeling, right? It sounds so silly why they're
And
feeling
watch your
that way.
face, like keep that neutral face. Don't be like, yeah, so
Right. Yeah, like actually listening. Yeah.
keep the neutral face. Like, don't tell your face. Let's like this. But because again, at that age, you're there. They're making things up about like what your body is saying. So if you're not saying it with your mouth and you're doing something weird with your face that you might not even know that you're doing, right? So just I say that to you because I live with all men, people, please. Like, they are not the best communicators. Sometimes their faces and their thoughts are like polar opposites, I swear.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's so true. And just to bring another kind of psychological principle in there too, kind of the reason why they kind of are hyper vigilant or hyper aware of everything going on, body language is that spotlight effect. It's as they're kind of developing their own emotional like intelligence and
Mhm.
those connections are forming, everything feels personal. Like everybody's looking at me,
Yeah.
all of my peers are judging me. So everything feels so personal.
Mhm.
And that's why, because of that kind of spotlight effect, which dissipates over time, but I think also helping to build up their self esteem, which you can help with as the confidence coach
Yes,
can
ma'am.
help with that. All those things help.
Yeah. And it does truly take all of us working together in an intentional way, um, to create that, because I found it with my kids. Like, if you're a parent, you say it, they don't listen. Your best friend says it, or your husband says it, for the love of God. And they're like, oh, well, dad said, or so-and-so said, and you're like, I said that like 70 times. Right? So
Right.
just knowing that it takes all of us saying the same thing to
Mhm.
penetrate, right? To get through to them in a way that they can internalize and then act on. So yeah. All right. So in wrap up, what do we want to make sure that we talk about?
Yes. So we definitely want to remember like the developmental stages, right? You're going to have the big feelings, but prior to age 7, okay, kind of assessing where they're at in the their specific capabilities, right? They might not be able to handle certain things. So finding limitations in that area. And then with teenagers, just like we talked about with holding boundaries, but also holding space. So validating where they're at, but also including them, especially with blended families, including them in as part of the process. And then we also talked about, gosh, help me here, Tracy. Some other things to talk about. Didn't have my coffee this morning.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about a lot. I think just ending with you're not alone. So if you have a question, you can reach out to Katie, you can reach out to me. If we can't help you, we'll get you to somebody who can. Like that.
Yeah.
Let's end on that note. And then I did want to ask one more question.
Yes.
And only because when you say emotional validation, Stuart Smiley comes into, I don't know if people
Yeah.
but if you know who Stuart Smiley is, so like, can we like say, what does emotional validation sound like? You know, is it sound, I mean, if you're, and let's do it for the teenagers, because I think we talked a lot about the preschoolers. So for the teenagers, if you're trying to validate their emotions, what can you say, or they're just not like, mom,
right?
Like, how can you validate their emotions in an authentic way that will get through to them, so that they don't just thinking like, you have to say that because you're my mom, or you have to say it because you're my dad.
Right. I think just focusing on the fact of, I can see you're really upset right now, and it sounds like you're going through a really difficult time. But I'm here to listen, or whatever you need from me in this capacity. I'm here for you. I think just starting as simple as that, just validating, like saying, okay, I see you and I hear you, and I am a safe space to be able to talk about whatever's going on with you.
Okay, yeah, I just want to go over like the languaging of that, because Stuart Smiley, so I just thought of that. All right, so yeah, so I hope that has given you clues in a way to get some knowledge, so that the next time you see some behavior, it will impact you as the parent differently, or maybe you as the teacher differently, or you as the guidance counselor differently, like however you interact with kids. I hope it will help you get a different perspective of what you're actually seeing, so that you can associate. I think this is one thing we didn't talk about: associate the negativity with the behavior and not the child, because they internalize that a lot. Like, I'm just bad, or I can never do things right, or I always am emotional, I always get angry, or they turn to internalize it and take that behavior and make it who they are. So make sure that you're directing it at the behavior and talking about the behavior.
Yes,
That
is key. That is so key. I'm so glad that you brought that up too.
Because that's when when you can say you're amazing, but when you act like that, not so much. Like, when you act like that, this is what it creates. So, if you can do this, then your awesomeness shines through, right? Then your amazingness is like a bright light and not an angry cloud, right? So, yeah. So just on that note, okay. So next week we are talking about, what are we talking about next week, Katie?
We're talking about responsive parenting, building trust. I think.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to talk about building trust and how to make that connection with your child. Really connect with them as a person, right? So, we talked about it last week about, like, we're all human beings in training. And so next week we're going to talk about how to make that connection and to develop that relationship so that it can grow as they grow, and not create a gap or a big divide as they get older, so that you can enjoy your kids. This is something I didn't really get until my kids were older. And so I love to teach parents how to enjoy their kids in the moment that they're in, because it goes by so fast. It goes by so fast. I didn't really get to do that for me until my grandbabies. Right. And so that's what we're going to talk about next week. So don't miss it. It's going to be live, and we are going to be right here on Facebook, but we also have set up the recordings in a library for you to access. So if you've missed any, you can just go in there, register, and get access to all the recordings as well. Plus, we're going to put some bonuses in there for you for some of the topics that we're talking about that may be new to you, like the neuroplasticity and maybe some keys on communication, and just helping you with phrases to get this process started so that you can create a new habit with your kids as you're modeling that behavior. So until next week, we can't wait to see you. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy your kids. Go and enjoy being a parent, changing the world by raising human beings. And bye. I'm going to end this. Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh
that-
gosh, sorry for the internet
no.
loss.
That's okay. I was just like, well, it was perfect. We were talking about being frustrated. I mean, but life happens. This is how you deal with it.
Great.
So that's what I wanted to talk to you about. What I was doing to make it like if they want to do the free stuff, they can just get the videos. But what I was doing, let me share my screen with you. I'll show you the one I did that I had to, I'm going to figure it out. But this is what I created.
Okay.
Of course, I'm not logged in. Now I logged into the wrong one. I don't know why it does that to me every time. Are you going to come to the luncheon today to come see the?
I won't be able to. I'm working today until like 4 o'clock. So
Dag nabbit. We'll try and do some videos. I'm not trying. We will do some videos. All right.
Sounds good.
So I set it up as a funnel because, like I said, afterwards, then we can. Did you like the clips?
Okay, let's see. I was trying to see if I can zoom in on this. I'm like on my phone trying to.
Oh, gotcha. All right. Let me do the mobile version. Is that better?
Yeah, that's a little better.
Okay. Yeah. So at the top, it had like claim your VIP access so that if they wanted to purchase it before we were finished, they could.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had like a timer. And then there I was going to put our videos.
Oh, okay.
Right. So like on this one, they could just get the videos. But if they wanted to pay for it, they're going to get access to more. So that looks like, hold on. Oh, yeah. This is what I included because this is just stuff that I have. So I was writing down like key things that we were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like the stuff that I have created, I did like no gimmicks, no hacks, no tricks. You get all the videos. And then I have this time creation worksheet for parents on how to evaluate the time and how they're spending it and making better
Okay.
choices with their time. And then I was going to include my 9-step process for like how to do things.
Okay.
Then I have a course on building confidence, like how to build it.
Nice.
So I was going to just include that. So if you had something like any lead magnets that you created.
Oh gosh, I haven't made any content yet besides like what I've posted on.
Well, this is
social
what I
media.
can do. So I have content because I have this other course and I got to revisit it called Building Self-Esteem in Your Kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have stuff on listening. I have stuff on communication. I don't have anything. I don't think I have anything on neuroplasticity in general.
Yeah.
But I do have like things on like your mind and changing your habits. And I think like if you could do something on how to keep promises to yourself, I think that's a big one. But that way I could add it to this page.
Okay.
And then they could see, oh, wow, I'm getting all of this.
Okay.
You know, I'm getting all of this. And I just priced it like $30.
Okay.
You know? Then we could do it that way.
Now, what kind of format are we looking at in terms of?
Just whatever you want. Like if you want to do quick videos, you can do quick videos. If you want to do a PDF, you can do a PDF. Like some of these are videos, some of these are just PDFs. You know, some of them are just like 1-page PDFs. The time creation worksheet is a PDF. And then I have like a video that they can link to from the PDF that just has me walking them through the process.
Mm,
Like, this is how you use it, you've got your time and you're spending it, wasting it, or investing it.
yeah.
And talking about like wasting time is not always bad if you're choosing it versus it happening without you thinking about it, that kind of distinctions. But I can look for the stuff I have on listening and the stuff I have. Oh, let me share this with you. There's a website called plr.me, which is content created for you. So you can use it to start. Like, you could find stuff on communication in there and use it to start, and then just add your stuff and it's made for you to use in your business.
It's por.me.
PL is in Lima.
Oh, okay.
.me.
PLR. Okay. Okay, good to know. I did not know about that resource, so thank you.
That would be a great start. I mean, it's what's it called? I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically they write it for you to use in your business. So you have the rights to modify it, claim it as your own, whatever. It has the worksheet. I mean, it's just a great tool. I sometimes go there to get started. The other place that is good.
I do have a ChatGPT account too. So
Yeah. And I find these sometimes they're good enough that I just kind of put my stuff on them and go. And then sometimes I just modify them a little bit. But there's also a Teachers Paying Teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Google that. I found some really good stuff that I'm going to incorporate into like my the booklet that I have to do this month. I'm not going to let myself get away with it. They have worksheets and documents. Like, I went out there the other day and found a inventory spreadsheet that I could use for like my inventory in my school.
Okay.
It was like $3.
Nice.
Yeah. So those are the two sites that I use when I need to create something, but I don't want to do it from scratch.
Okay. That is super helpful.
Yeah. So, but I definitely would do something on like communication, how to keep promises to yourself, creating the habits, anything on neuroplasticity, because I don't even remember why I started looking into that, but a lot of parents don't even understand that. They don't even know that that's a thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, I mean, we've got time. I just wanted to maybe use that, like, hey, this week we talked about this. You can grab this document from Katie here, so we can start like getting people like calling us and like pulling them into the the schools and the practices and stuff.
Cool.
So that we
sounds good.
Yeah, end the month like with a whole new following. Did you like the clips?
I don't know if I saw. I don't know if I saw that.
All right, let me show you, because I learned about this software last week. Oh my God. I was like, holy crap. So basically you upload your video. Like, I uploaded the video that we did, and it automatically generated this. Like, I didn't do anything but upload it. And I'm going to do the same thing for today.
Okay.
Come on. And then it automatically did this. It
generates like a clip.
And a clip, and gives you a score on relevancy and what people are looking for.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
And so I put out there, I use these titles when I put them on my YouTube channel, but it gave us like the titles and then pulled the video out for us.
Okay, that is super helpful. I was wondering if you did something like this, so I'm glad you said that. Because I am trying to get more active on my social media as marketing, and that's definitely going to be helpful. Okay, do you have a link to all of these, or
this is what we probably should do? I'm gonna probably do either drop.
If you want to drop a folder to me,
or like I might do like a Dropbox folder, and then I can just put like week 1 full video and clips.
Okay.
Video and clips, And then that way, you can put them out there. I did put some out there. I can't remember what page I put them on. I tried to pull out this week. But I this morning though, I put them on my YouTube channel. So the other thing I learned in that class last week was that you need to put them, like, upload video to Facebook and upload video to YouTube.
Mm,
You shouldn't share between them because they don't promote them.
that makes sense.
So like you have to upload them 2 places. But I thought with the clips that was great. And with the clips, we can, and probably not now, but like towards the end of the month, do some quick videos with the clips in them
Okay.
and then just promote those. So what I was trying to do is take the ones that had like a 90 or better, post them out on social media with like the title that it used in the video.
Yeah.
Then just some, like, these are the things we talked about this week. That's why I was trying to catch the keywords, because I didn't do that last week. So I was
Okay.
like,
Oh, it even gives you like keywords, like how turn these
yeah.
keywords.
So like on that one that we did, it was self-listening, taking control of your body, the true essence of self-care beyond pedicures and bubble baths, unleash your power of sleep, boost your focus and your grades,
Okay.
empowering kids, building confidence and trust.
Mm,
So it gave those titles.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So we can then take the little clip and then make it. Let me show you one more thing. I'll show you all the tools.
Yeah, I gotta go soon. I gotta go.
I gotta go get ready for this luncheon. But let me just share this super quick. So like in video, I'll just show you like what I'm thinking. Then we can take it. That's just a promo. I don't read that. That's not it. Let me do one of the ones I did for Christmas for the coaching business. All right, so like you can do this. We can take it and make it this. Like a quick video,
Okay.
like something under a minute.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so then we can turn it into that. So we'll probably need to do that like the first week of September, and then just kind of get those out there, and then we can kind of promote these the rest of the year. So all right.
Cool.
All right, so
Sounds good.
I'll get that uploaded now while I'm cooking. I'm cooking for the luncheon today.
Oh man, okay.
It's cheaper. So I'm cooking for that, and then I'll have the clips later tonight.
Cool.
And we'll
Sounds
get it
good.
out there.
Yay.
Great.
All right, we'll be in touch. I'll be working on some of the content.
Okay,
So,
cool. Those tools will help. All right, bye.
bye.
Bye.